A block or blocks will be handy, and maybe cushions if you find them useful. So if you have those, grab them. And when you're ready, we're going to start standing up. To start with, take a deep, deep breath through your nose if possible, and then sigh it out through your mouth. And then take another deep breath and flutter your lips. So try horse lips. And then try that again a couple of times, just horse lips. And you might, as you're trying horse lips, bring in a little bit of vibrating into your body. So you're vibrating your lips, vibrating your arms, maybe your legs, maybe kind of make this a full body shake vibration sort of thing. Maybe try that just a couple more times. And when you're ready, come back to center. And if you have a block, grab your block. If you don't have a block, you can mime having a block. If you got one, press it between your palms and stretch your arms out straight. And then from here, soften a little through your knees, lift that block to the extent that you can overhead. And then from here, notice, are your ribs flaring? So is this happening? If so, can you tuck your ribs in so you're kind of pulling your ribs down a little bit and finding this stack? And if your block moves a little bit more forward, that's totally fine. But from here, keeping that rib position, bring your block down behind you, grab it with the other hand, lift it back up, pass it again, and back down. And I think I'm off the screen, so up, pass it around. And notice as you lift your arms up, your shoulders come into external rotation. As you bring it down, they very likely come into internal rotation. So try that a few times in one direction, and then switch, move in the other direction. And again, just be aware of your back. Is your back starting to arch or your ribs flaring out? And can you pull them in? Notice what it takes to do that. And then you can pause and set your block aside where you can reach it later. And come on down to your back. Once you're on your back, you might pull your knees in towards your chest and rock from side to side a couple of times. Maybe take a few deep breaths, just noticing how are you feeling. And if there's any other movement that feels like that's what my body wants right now, go ahead and try that. Just really start to notice how you're feeling, what kind of energy you have. And then when you're ready, come into constructive rest posture with your feet on the floor, knees bent. And make your knees and feet line up. So your feet are right under your knees. Take a peek at your legs. Notice, are your legs parallel? If they are, great. If they're not, are they more comfortable being where they are now than they would be being parallel? That's fine. Bring your arms alongside your body and slowly, starting from the tailbone, roll your back up until you're in bridge pose, Setubandha Sarvangasana. Take a deep breath up there, and then slowly roll your spine back down. And try a few rolling bridges. So when you get to the bottom, if you want to tilt your pelvis a little so that you create a little arch under your back, that's totally fine. That might feel good. You're just starting to kind of get your spine moving. And that might be a nice added thing, the little pelvic tilt. And can you think about, as you're rolling your spine down, just imagine each vertebra touching the ground one by one, and then lifting back up one by one. And the next time you're rolled all the way up, pause at the top and notice if there's any tension anywhere. Maybe you're clenching your teeth, maybe your shoulders and neck are kind of clenching. It's okay if you are. Maybe noticing it will kind of let it release a little bit, maybe not. Then bring your attention to your feet. Maybe lift all your toes and press down a little more actively through the big toe mounds, your pinky toe mounds, and your heels. Then spread your toes and drop them down, keeping that activation in your foot. And maybe try isometrically squeezing your feet towards your body and notice, does that change what you're feeling in your bridge pose? And even as you're doing that, can you notice if other places are clenching up that don't need to? And can you breathe pretty freely here? As you're ready, you can roll your spine back down slowly, slowly, slowly. And when you get to the bottom, maybe widen your feet a little, try a couple of windshield wipers. Maybe take a deep inhale and try horse lips. Then bring the soles of your feet together and allow your knees to come out to the side for Supta Baddha Konasana. Press your feet together gently. So you're creating some engagement through your lower body. And the blades of your feet, your pinky toe sides of your feet will be on the ground. Can you actively press them down a little bit? So pressing your feet together and pressing your feet down into your mat. And you can stay right there. Or if it feels secure to you to do so, if your ankles are stable and they feel great, you might press down a little harder and lift your hips. So you're in kind of a hybrid of bridge and bound angle. And if you're trying this, you might notice that balancing on those edges of your feet is a little less stable than having the soles of your feet on the ground. And as always, make sure you're making your choices according to what makes sense and what is kind, using discernment and really checking in with your body to see what works best for you. If you're up in this bridge hybrid, or maybe you're up in a bridge, roll your spine back down. If it feels okay to pull your knees in, go ahead and pull your knees in towards your chest. And then drop your left foot down onto the ground. Flex your right foot and bring your right ankle over your left knee. Press your right knee away from your body so that you maybe start to feel something in your right hip. And then, if it feels okay to you, to lift your left leg up, pull that knee up towards your chest, and that may deepen the stretch that you're feeling. So you're in Sucharandrasana, wherever you are here. And if you're on the ground, this is more of a kind of a passive position. If you're pulling your knee up and you're not holding onto it with your hands, this is a more active position. You might try bringing your hands around the back of your hamstring or around the front of your shin to see, maybe that brings in a deeper stretch. Sometimes that can allow us to pull our knee a little closer to our body. So this is more of a, we're using an outside force to help us here to get leverage. So it's actually more of a passive stretch. And if you wanted to make it a more active stretch, you could let go with your hands. And it's still kind of passive because you're using your left leg to give you leverage. If you were to keep your right leg up and drop your left leg down, this would be a truly active stretch because you're not using any leverage from outside, just the strength of your own muscles. And that might feel a little weird. But when you're ready, you can drop both feet down and switch sides. So flex your left foot and bring it over your right knee. Start pressing that left knee away from your body. See what you feel in your hip, and then decide, what would you like to do here? Do you want to lift your right leg up? Do you want to interlace your hands behind your hamstring or in front of your shin? Or do you want to try that really active stretch by dropping your right leg down and pulling your left leg using the strength of your left leg? As you're ready, you can drop that down, bring your feet back down to the ground, and you can either pull your knees into your chest or try some windshield wipers or anything that feels right here. As you're ready, make your way up to a seated position, and you can do that any way you like. If it feels good to you to pull your knees in and rock yourself up, you might try that. I'm going to turn around so the sun's not in my eyes. And once you find yourself up in a seated position, bring your feet in front of you, place them on the ground, and grab a block if you have a block. Place the block where you can reach it. Bring your hands behind you and straighten through your back as much as you can. So you're lifting up tall. You can lift your right leg up so that that shin is parallel to the ground. And then drop it down and lift your left leg. And you can continue moving like this. Or you might try bringing both feet up at the same time. and then lower everything down and notice, like, how did that work for you? Another option would be to flex your feet and place your block right there on your shins. And if lifting both feet worked for you, maybe you try lifting both feet and balancing that block here. So you're in whatever version of boat or navasana you're trying. That's the pose. And if your arms are behind you supporting you, that's great. You might also try bringing them around to hold behind your knees or alongside your shins. Make sure you're not rounding too much through your back. So you want to kind of have a lot of length in your spine. And you can be trying any of these options. If your arms are up, you can bring them down. If your legs are up, lower them down. And take a break. You might kind of try moving your back around a little, just getting in some in-between movement here to see how did that land? How did that feel for you? We're going to try it another time. And you can choose from any of those options. So when you're ready, set yourself up for whatever option of boat you would like to try and make your way into your boat, Navasana. And I often think when I'm in boat and I start shaking, because that often happens when I'm in boat, that's just the waters. That's how things are today. And I try to breathe through it. So if that's happening for you, can you breathe through it? And can you make choices that support you? So maybe if your hands are up and you're shaking and you're like, and you can't breathe, you bring your hands down. And wherever you are, you can release your boat. Set your block aside where you can reach it later. From here, come into a tabletop position, facing the long edge of your mat. Extend your right leg out and walk your hands up towards you so you can lift your body up and find your tall kneeling position. If you have a block, maybe grab your block and press it between your hands the way we did in the very, very beginning. Lift your arms up. Really stretch up through your side body here. And then if it feels okay to you to lean your body towards your extended leg, you can go ahead and do that. Any amount at all, or maybe none. And then lift yourself back up to center. Maybe lean the opposite way. Notice that your core really has to engage for this. And then lift yourself back up to center. Take your block in one hand, pass it back behind you, grab it with the other, and lift it back up. And again, notice what's going on with your ribs. Are they tending to flare here? If so, tuck them down so that you have your core engaged. And once you've passed your block a few times one way, try passing it the other way. So just reverse directions. And then you can bring your block down, come back into your tabletop and switch legs. So right leg in, left leg out. As you're ready, make your way back up into your tall kneeling position. Maybe use your block. And if you didn't like using the block, you can set it aside and try gate as normal. So lifting up maybe leaning towards that extended leg to any degree. Make sure you can breathe pretty freely here. Come back to center and maybe try leaning in the opposite direction. Come back to center and then try passing your block. So behind you and back up. And as you're passing the block, notice how your body is responding. Maybe switch directions. So you might notice your shoulder blades moving on your back. Maybe notice what feels like it's working. And is there anywhere that feels like it can relax? And then as you're ready, you can release that, place your block down, pull your leg in,